Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 5, Episode 6, The Vampires of Venice. So, this story serves as the first episode for Rory Williams as a companion. He was previously in The 11th Hour, but he was not a companion in that episode. This is his first episode as a companion. The story opens with a man called Gilio trying to enroll his daughter, Isabella, into a school run by Rosanna Calvieri, I believe that's her name, played by Helen McCroy. Um, and it turns out that this school is, in fact, a school where Rosanna Calvieri and her son Francesco, played by Alex Price, who, fun fact, narrates Doctor Who Confidential. This series is Doctor Who Confidential. And they're vampires, actually. Oh, well, actually, they're not vampires, but on the outside, on the surface, they appear to be vampires with the teeth, the blood sucking, the not appearing in mirrors, etc. So they're not actually vampires. I'll get onto that in a bit. But they appear to be vampires, hence the Vampires of Venice. Meanwhile, back in 2010, Roy Williams is enjoying his stag night when the Doctor jumps out of his cake and informs him that Amy tried to kiss him, as seen in the last episode, Flesh and Stone. So, as the Doctor realizes this is a problem, he decides to take Amy and Rory on a date so that they can rekindle their relationship and eventually get married without the Doctor being in the way. So they go to Venice 1580 and explore the city, but once they see Gilio, because he's worked out that something's gone wrong at the school, not sure if he found out about the bad stuff after he enrolled his daughter, or if he was so desperate to enroll her. They were so desperate that she had to be enrolled despite of what he heard, and then afterwards he realised it was a massive mistake and tried to get her out. It's not entirely made clear, but by the time Doctor, Amy, and Rory arrive, he's trying to find her and trying to get her out, much to his charm. He's not very successful. He does find her, but she doesn't recognise him. This is due to the process that she and the other girls have been given by Rosanna and her people inside. If that wasn't, not only does his daughter not recognise her, but one of the other girls pushes him away, and she's showing the teeth. She's one of the ones who's further up the conversion line. And if that wasn't bad enough for the poor guy, he then gets stepped on by Francesco, and then the guards pick him up and drag him out of the area, basically. By the way, what type of school teaches girls to just walk throughout the square, taunting parents who sent their daughters in there and now trying to get them out? Was this a test or something? I can understand maybe going for a walk throughout the city, but from some of the whisperings I could hear, it sounded like this was deliberate, so that they ooh, this guy's he's going to try and rescue his daughter. Let's be on time for him, and then we can humiliate him and stuff. That's my only reasoning, unless they really were just going for a morning walk. I say morning, it could have been afternoon. But eventually, the Doctor meets up with Gilio, and they start talking. And the Doctor manages to get into to part of the house, and sees 5 of the vampire girls. It's, by the way, only 4 accredited, but there's quite a few vampire girls in this story. 5 of which meet the Doctor down below, and he makes the connection of the mirrors with the pale, creepy girls who don't like sunlight. Being vampires. Amy and Rory also have their own encounter with a vampire as they meet they see Francesco biting a poor girl's neck, just a regular street flower seller. So after that experience, by the way, Francesco will recognise Amy after this appearance, not so much Rory, but the Doctor, Amy, and Rory then team up with Gilio to try and find a way to get inside to the house to get Isabella out and to find out what's going on. Amy comes up with the plan that she should be enrolled as a student, with Rory acting as her brother, which is a plan the Doctor and Rory aren't very keen on, but there isn't any other option apart from because of they could have gotten in if there wasn't for the fact through a secret passage, if it wasn't for the fact that there was a bolt on the well trap door. Um, so that's why Amy suggests that she enrolls to get to then open the hatch from the inside. The only other option was to blow it up through Gilio's gunpowder, but I don't know if that would work. I think that would have been just. I think that would have had them caught even sooner than with Amy. Um, Eventually, Amy is enrolled in the school with Francesco recognizing her, and Rosanna believes Rory, who's pretending to be her brother, to be an idiot until she sees the psychic paper that Rory's using. Um, and it's the psychic paper that sort of catches them out because she's aware of psychic paper, apparently, as well as Francesco's suspicions of Amy. And eventually, Amy is captured after unbolting the trap door and is almost turned into a vampire through by Rosanna. But it turns out Rosanna is in fact a fish creature called a saturnine, and they're taking the form of humans. But whilst they can not be seen in mirrors in reflection, they can still have their big teeth, which makes them presumed to be looking like vampires, and like vampires, they are blood-sucking creatures, and they will drain the blood of human girls and replace it with their own blood, which turns the girls into female saturnines, ready to be delivered to their 10,000 husbands in the canals. As it's explained later, Rosanna and 10,001, presumably unless Francesca counts as the 10,000, they escape from Saturnine, which is destroyed by cracks in time, which swallows their world, and only 10,000 males and one female survive the trip. So Rosanna has to get as many girls as she can to give to her Saturnines and then repopulate Venice of these Saturnine people. As for the school teacher, her assistant, and the guards, I don't know if they're turned into Saturnines or if they've just been really well paid. I would not be surprised if they got it for either. Actually, I would not be surprised either because you could imply that maybe they're vampires. Well, not vampires, Saturnines, or but then again, at the end, we see Gilio running off with some valuables. So maybe he is just human. He's just getting well paid and just promised of being left alive. Hey, if he gets all these valuables and gets out of the city on time, he'd be okay. As the same for the guards and the school teacher if she's not a Saturnine like the girls. But yeah. Anyway, so the Doctor and Rory managed. Amy's rescued by Isabella, whilst the Doctor and Rory distract the others, and then they all escape, apart from Isabella, who is recaptured and sentenced to death by being eaten by the male Saturnines in the waters, which pisses off the Doctor when he finds out about this. Have I mentioned by this point that this? Well, I have actually. I was trying to make a joke that the 11th Doctor so far isn't quite the comedic, childlike, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, silly incarnation that we see later on down the line. The 11th Doctor is deadly serious in these first 6-7 episodes. He is deadly serious and he can get cross really easily. So I'm not quite sure what the reasoning was to make him sillier as the show goes on, as his era goes on. But in these earliest episodes, he is really serious. I think that's a similar thing with what happened to the 10th Doctor. He had this sillier moments early on, but he could be quite serious in his early stories, and then come Series 3 and 4, he started to act a little bit more silly. Not silly, just playful silly. With 11's case, childlike, playful, silly. So, yeah, it's actually the opposite to what's happening with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. She started off as quite a silly, fun-loving incarnation, but she's getting darker over the series as the series progresses. Same could be said for Sylvester McCoy. But yeah, Matt Smith in these earlier stories, he's definitely a more darker incarnation than what later stories will have him, apart from when he does get really cross or when he does need to be really serious. But In these earlier stories, he is quite a more serious incarnation with the occasional fun moments. I'm not sure if I've said this in a previous episode review of series 5, but I think Matt Smith just feels like a normal person, at least before he goes really silly, and then he gets a bit slightly too alien, a little bit. Well, not too alien, but slightly alien. But at the moment, he's got he's almost normal person, apart from the fact he's an alien. He's almost like a normal person, which makes sense. And then there's going to be episodes in the series, such as The Lodger later down the line, where he does have to pass as a normal bloke. So it does make sense that he does already have the feel of being a normal bloke, besides the fact he's really clever at set and super knowledgeable about aliens and times and stones and stuff, and not so well known on the little human things, as the next story, Amy's Choice, will clearly show. But the 11th Doctor does feel like a normal person, which actually is better than what we get later on down the line with him being all silly, because this does mean he can get more serious and angry in these stories, even without it having to be too personal. That's usually a personal thing when it does happen, but even so, he can still be pretty serious when the situation arrives. And I think whilst the 11th Doctor is very good at being serious throughout his era, these earlier stories show that this is part of his personality at this point before going really silly later on down the line. So anyway, Isabella is, as I said, Isabella's killed. The Doctor confronts Rosanna and gets some answers, and eventually the girls are then sent to kill the Doctor and his friends, but they escape. The Doctor's managed to patch up Amy, and they work out what the plan is. And Gilio sacrifices himself by blowing up his house to destroy the vampire girls. And the Doctor, Amy, and Rory then have to try and stop Rosanna from achieving her plan. It's also around this point that, Rory throughout this episode has been a bit like himself in the 11th hour, but a little bit more confident, because he now knows the Doctor's trying to help him out, and he's trying to be as good as the best as he can be for Amy. And he even has a couple of moments where he has to talk down the Doctor, like the bit inside the house where he tells him he has no idea how dangerous he is around other people, that he makes them want to take risks to impress him. That whole bit down there, that's really good for Rory's character development. And then he has the fight with Francisco, which could arguably be the best sword fight that does not feature any incarnation of the Doctor in the show. Of course, the best sword fights do feature the Doctors. See the Sea Devils, the King's Demons, the Christmas Invasions, and to a lesser extent, Robot of Sherwood. I say lesser extent because the Doctor used a spoon, not a sword, but it was still technically a sword fight. But yeah, this is probably the best sword fight in the show that does not feature the Doctor. And again, like Robot or Show, it's sort of sword fight because Rory uses a broom. But eventually, Rory fights off Francesco when he comes after Amy, and Amy uses her mirror to reflect sunlight to kill Francesco. So the two companions end up saving each other and killing Francesco, and Rory gets a bit more confident after this, and from a kiss from Amy, of course. And he and Amy are now kind of on the similar levels in confidence and helping the Doctor out, and like hanging out with him and kind of be all buddy and chummy and stuff. I mean, they were already on fairly good terms already, but now they're like buddies, really good buddies now, so that's all good. In fact, by this point, I think not only is Rory now a companion, he's now a solidly established companion by the end of this episode. Mates with the Doctor and pretty much hanging out with him as much as possible. Well, so long as Amy's around. I mean, there will be times where the two will be on their own, but the Doctor and Rory, as well as the Doctor and Amy and Rory. But yeah, I like how this relationship's going with these guys, and I think also it's the Doctor companion's boyfriend / secondary companion in this series, and later husband of the primary companion, is going. I think this is the best one so far. I mean, if you have a look at series 1, we had the 9th Doctor, how his personality clashed with Mickey Smith, as well as their relationship and their relationships with Rose Tyler, and the same thing in series 8 with the 12th Doctor, Clara Oswald and Danny Pink. And out of these three dynamics, I think the 11th Doctor, Amy Pond and Roy Williams one is the best, which is good considering he not only becomes a great companion and as well as marrying Amy and being all good friends with the 11th Doctor, but he possibly becomes the best companion. No, he does become the best companion of the 11th Doctor's era by the time Series 6 is reaching its halfway point. Anyway, so Vampires of Venice. I think this is a great story. Again, executed really well. Brilliant direction, brilliant cinematography, as per usual. Some amazing music by Murray Gold, especially in the third act. The third act does feel like it is a little bit of a hurry, but maybe another 5 minutes might have slowed it down a bit. But nevertheless, it's still very satisfying, really entertaining. Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, and Arthur Darvill are all perfect in this episode. They do not do a note wrong, and our guest cast are really good, especially Hannah McCroy and Alex Price. There's also a little bit more comedy in this episode to the previous 5. Well, maybe not so much. Well, maybe not as much as 11th Hour, but more than the previous 4 episodes at least, where Rosanna gets a couple comedic lines in there, and there's a few funny moments as well. But the story is still a pretty serious one. Not dark and serious, but still, the focus is on drama. It's a drama for Amy and Rory and the Doctor, because they're sorting out their relationships, and the Saturnine plot is not something to be messing around with. This is no time to be fooling around. We've got to be serious, but we don't have to be terribly serious. So basically, it's a normal story. It's a basically fine story. You got a bit of seriousness, but you can have the odd couple of funny lines or jokes in every now and again. Not too many to make it too much of a comedy, but enough to lighten the mood. And it's not too serious enough to be down and depressing. It's again enough to give good drama. I think the Venice setting is good. I think the Saturnines are great villains, although the designs themselves could have been better, but they're not on screen too much, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, it's pretty interesting and pretty good, and I like how it weaved itself with vampires, thinking that these aliens were vampires, but they're actually alien fish people that, when disguised as humans, or when transforming humans into these aliens, they appear to be vampires. That being said, can they fly? I mean, vampires can fly, but can these Saturnine creatures fly? Because the girls are flying when they come to attack the Doctor and his friends. Yeah, I'm just going to say that the Saturnines could. Overall, Vampires of Venice is a very good episode in this era, and a very good first story for Rory Williams as a companion, and a very good story in this series, as well as the era as a whole, possibly. I will be giving the Vampires of Venice a 9 out of 10. I actually was very tempted to give this a 10 out of 10, but I decided to stick with 9. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe some things could have worked better with a few extra exposition, and maybe the third act could have slowed down a pinch, just a very little pinch. It was fine as it was, but maybe could have slowed down just a very little bit. But besides that, fine with me. This is a great episode. I really enjoyed it and really liked it. Right, so that's the Vampires of Venice. Vampire. Thank you for watching this review, and I'll see you guys next time for my review of the 7th episode of Series 5, Amy's Choice. And oh boy, if I thought Vampires of Venice was a great episode, wait till you see the next one. I mean, it's no 11th Hour, but still. I'll see you guys then. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Although they didn't give him much joke at that bit. Eventually the Doctor I mean, he's like I said, I'm not sure if I said this before. Which might arguably could be the best sword fight between as best the Sea Devils, the King's Demons, and of course the Christmas Invasion. See the Sea Devil and their relationship, of both of them and their And the same with Series 8, the same thing with the 12th Doctor, Clara, and Clara Oswald, which is good because Rory not only becomes a regular companion as well as marrying Amy, but he also becomes possibly the best 11th Doctor companion by the time Series 6 reaches its halfway point. Maybe even by the point Series 6 is, well, just after it's begun. I'm looking at you, Good Man Goes to War. By that point of A Good Man Goes to War, he probably has established. By the time A Good Man Goes to War comes around, he has established himself to become the. I've got that. It's actually. And I'll see you guys next time for the 7th episode of Yes, under 20 minutes.